Hi, and welcome to the latest Batman Beyond Writer's Commentary, this time covering material published in issue number 8 of DC Comics' Batman Beyond Unlimited. I'm Adam Beechin, the writer. Our artist is Norm Brayfogle. Andy Elder handles our colors. Saida Temofonte is our letterer, and Ben Abernathy, Christy Quinn, and Alex Antone are our editors. If you haven't read the issue, I'm about to spoil everything for you, so hit pause now and come on back when you're ready. Our cover was drawn by Dustin Nguyen, and I think it's one of, if not the, best cover of the series so far. And I want to thank Dustin for not listening to me. I had it in my mind to make the cover a recreation of Jim Aparo's famous Death in the Family image, but Dustin, quite rightly, wanted to do his own take, and what he came up with is pretty staggering, I think, packing just as much punch as Aparo's famous classic. It's a bit of a mislead, however, because the way the scene plays out in the first pages of the comic, it's a dream sequence of Bruce's, who's currently dying in the hospital of liver failure. It extends the sequence of finding Jason Todd's body to include Dick Grayson, Tim Drake, Barbara Gordon, and Terry McGinnis. No Damian, you say? Well, that's right, no Damian. The title of this segment is Boomtown, and it's a title I'm really happy with. I think a lot about titles and try to give them as much meaning as possible. Some are more effective than others. One thing I fall back on, probably too much, is using song titles. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think a bunch of other writers do the same thing, probably a lot more effectively than I do. Look at a month's worth of comics sometime and see how many songs you can find among the comics titles. I'd be interested to know. Incidentally, we've abandoned using chapter numbers for our arcs because it gets too confusing with sometimes printing 10 pages a month and sometimes 20. Over by the Origin caption box, you'll notice where it says DC Comics proudly presents. Well, when I first started writing comics for DC, I noticed that on some of the books and desperately wanted it on something I wrote. Finally, once, I just wrote it into the script and it popped up in the issue like no big deal. It's been there ever since. Still, I hope the book is something DC is proud of. I know the creative team and I are proud of it, for sure. The next page takes us to the end of Bruce's dream. One of the great things about doing this book is you can get into the things Bruce would never say, not to anyone. The way I figure it, his greatest regret in life, after not being able to save his parents, is not being able to save Jason. And his greatest fear is that he'll be responsible for the deaths of others in his quote-unquote family. He's had this nightmare for decades, and the fact we're learning that now, I think, goes some of the way to explaining why he's been slowly trying to bring his former associates back into his fold. One way to get rid of his dream would be to let them go on with their lives and stay as far away as possible. Another is to bring them back and try to ensure personally that they stay safe and well. That's what Bruce is choosing to do. Also, I think he secretly hopes for forgiveness from the people he thinks he's wronged. Whether or not this is a smart course of action remains to be seen. Here's our sly little nod to Frank Miller's The Dark Knight, in which Bruce repeats this particular phrase several times as a running motif. Aside from the fact that, after all he's been through as Batman, Bruce would find dying of liver failure pretty stupid, this is really just an Easter egg for fans. Remember, I told you this arc was going to be pretty darn dark. Well, we're moving fast into the blackness now. Here's Terry's first glimpse at the truly random violence caused by the Joker King. Batman's supposed to be the city's hero, but this is something he couldn't possibly have prevented or done anything about, because there was simply no reason to suspect it was going to happen at this place at this time. He knows the threat of the Joker King is out there, but unlike so many other bad guys, the Joker King isn't announcing his plan to the world and daring others to stop him. He's just going through with it. That puts our heroes in the worst position possible, being reactive and playing catch-up rather than figuring out a way to get ahead of the villain. A number of people have asked if Jake Chill was going to return and how he would impact the story if he did. Well, now you know. Batman's had Gotham to himself for quite a while. It'll be interesting to see how he handles a new hero in town, particularly one with different methods and approaches. Last time we took you behind the scenes in Norm's creation of the Joker King, and now let's do the same with the Vigilante. We had a place to start from here, the Wayne Powers security uniform. It was a matter of modifying that in a way that looked cool and made Jake visually distinctive. The Bat logo on the chest armor was an interesting idea, but tied Jake too closely to Batman. He's stepping up and being his own man now, as the Vigilante, so we didn't think he'd place himself under someone else's shadow. We liked the all-black version here, but in scenes where he'd share the stage with Batman, it wouldn't really pop, so we opted for some other ideas. Number 5 here heads in the right direction for us, but we wanted Jake fully armored. Bare arms and cloth pants didn't make practical sense for fighting crime. Now we're getting there. He's taking on a more distinctive look, and we all like the idea of glinty silver armor. Number 6 was particularly striking, I thought, but we wanted to stay away from the design of the Vigilante character from the 1980s, as put together by Marv Wolfman and George Perez. Some use of the V as a design element is inevitable, but I think here it was the helmet that was a little too reminiscent of the Adrian Chase character's outfit. Here's about where Norm started cursing my name, although it might have been Far earlier, for all I know. I hope not. We're zeroing in with number 10, but the helmet's still not quite right. Starting to drop in the color now, we all felt red was a good addition to the scheme. I saw these two and knew we wanted a melding of both. Full silver armor with the V in black surrounded by red, and the rest of the armor, including the pants, silver. A couple more variations with some hand detail. Number 16 comes the closest. It was just a matter of communicating to Norm that the pants and sleeves were silver as well. Again, we didn't want that much black, so the character would pop next to Batman. We also didn't want the faceplate in red. So with those tweaks, we were home. As usual, Norm knocked himself out making the designs work, and any of them would have been just fine. But I think the extra mile he went makes for a pretty visually striking character. Back to our story. Now, after some time away, I thought it was time to check in with the Max Undercloud story we'd been setting up for a while. Our two stories dovetail here for a moment, with some bad stuff happening for Max, and with her unavailable to help, Terry's going to need to turn to some other sources. As for what's going to happen to Max, we're going to leave you hanging on that one for a few installments, but I promise you, she's not forgotten. Here's where it really hits the fan for Terry. You're one hero. There are multiple, massive, coordinated explosions in your city with guaranteed heavy casualties. And every indication is that this isn't the end, not by a long shot. It's hard to imagine a more helpless feeling. We started the segment with Bruce's nightmare. Terry might well be having some of his own after this arc is over. For those of you who wondered if Dick Grayson was going to become a regular recurring character in the book, guess what? Dick is a very important part of this future Gotham as far as I'm concerned, and he's too good a character not to be part of this action. And here's another returning supporting character not seen since the Hush Beyond miniseries, the new Catwoman. I love writing her dialogue. There's a world weariness and toughness to it that's very different from the current Catwoman. I think it really helps her to stand out. And I'm amazed we were able to get away with the line she says here. Amazed, but happy. Thanks, DC. And that's that for another segment. The print version of the next segment, in Batman Beyond Unlimited number 9, hits the stands on Halloween, October 31st, so be on the lookout for that. It's already available digitally at Comixology.com for 99 cents, as are all our other chapters. We'll put that link up here in a moment. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to send them to Batman Beyond Commentary, all one word, at gmail.com, and I'll do my best to respond directly. Thanks for sticking with us, hope you're telling your friends, and we'll see you again soon.